Ciao guys, welcome back to the ARTFUL Podcast. It's Matteo, your host. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Let's grow this art community together. And no further ado, let's go on with a new episode.
Matteo, tutto bene? How are you?
Hey, hi. Oh, it's an Italian introduction as well.
In Italian, I know.
That's good enough. That's great. How you doing?
Yeah, good. I'm good. Bro, I'm a bit stunned by your audio quality. It's so good.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I always check if it's good. Yeah, to be honest, it's the only investment that I have for the podcast. It's a good mic.
It's
Yeah.
the only we need.
So where are you? Are you in the studio or
No,
home?
I'm in the opposite of the studio. I'm in a tiny little box, in a co-working space.
Oh, okay.
So basically, I'll tell you throughout our chat today what I'm up to,
All right.
but
I
one of
see.
them requires me to be in more or less your conventional office, and I have a little booth set up here. So yeah.
Nice. Okay.
You
Nice.
and you're in Berlin.
Yes, I am in Berlin. My this is my apartment basically. I had like a set up in like a little corner. But yeah. So guys, welcome back to the new episode of the ARTFUL Podcast. Today, a really fun episode. I can feel it already. I have James with me. We spoke literally 2 days ago, and then we organized this interview really spontaneous. That's how I like it. And then, welcome to the podcast, James.
Thank you. Yeah, really nice to be here. And actually, as soon as you mentioned you had a podcast, I was like, I need to get involved.
Yeah, yeah. To be, no, it's not that common that artists are that spontaneously asking to be on the podcast. They usually are like really kind of shy, don't really want to talk about it. I need to kind of like convince them it's good thing that you talk about your things, and it's a good platform, it's easy, nothing too crazy. And yeah, I need to do a little bit of work before, but with you was you ask straight away, and that was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the people that might don't know you, just go for a quick introduction, your background, where you're from, your studies, and yeah, let's go for now.
Cool, because yeah, you actually just before we started, you asked, it's James, right? My name is James, and there's a little bit of a story behind it because
Okay.
let's just put it this way, I don't look like your typical James, in the sense that I am Chinese. My parents are from mainland China, and I was born in England. So actually, what happened is they need to give me an English name, and they named me after James Bond, right?
Oh, I love that.
they, they also named my sister after Alice in Wonderland. So my theory is this. My theory is a couple of Chinese immigrants moved to England. They don't know any other names. They only know the ones that they see in the cinema. So they named me very, I would say basically.
I love that.
But yeah, that's my name. So I mean, I've already told you, I'm Chinese, born and raised in England. I moved to Berlin 4 years ago.
Mhm.
I mean, the boring story is that I moved here for work. Um, that's not what made me stay. So I moved for work, but I stayed for other reasons, which I can get into later.
Mhm.
But that's about it. I mean, um, right now I'm calling you, as I said, from the co-working space in Mitte. And basically, I divide my time in three ways.
All right.
One of them is a tech startup, one of them is a non-tech side hustle, and another one is art. And obviously, that's the reason why we're speaking today.
Yeah, yeah. What you mean by text, no text? Is that like the day job that you have, or
Yes, so it's like,
okay?
yeah, so I'm high level here, co-founder of a tech startup, very Berlin, I know.
Ah, okay.
I also build a skincare brand for the Brazilian market. And then I also do art.
Oh, amazing. All right, I see. Great. So what was your introduction to art? Let's start from like the basic, like, is that from early age you always been like it was always there for you and you just jump into it like more professionally like lately, or how was your introduction to art? When did you start making art?
Yeah. So the kind of cliche answer is ever since I was a child, you know, but the more kind of granular answer is this. And I often say this to people who want to get to understand me. It's, you can look at my CV, you can see which schools I went to, whatever, but a story from my childhood would summarize me. And it goes like this. When I was in primary school, so ages of like 8, 9 years old, I loved doing one thing, and it was drawing comics. I then printed them on the school printer, and then I sold them for 20p. Against school rules, you're not allowed to like sell things at school, right? But for me, it summarizes kind of more or less who I am then and also now. It's like this. I love creating, like with my hands, the more creative, the better. And I love business. I love selling.
Hmm.
That's kind of like dictated my journey until now, in the sense that, you know, the things that I've done might on the surface appear quite random, but for me, it always comes back to that childhood story. So yeah, I did art throughout my school years. I then went to university to study politics and French. The point there is it wasn't what I studied. I was interested in these topics, but
Hmm.
ultimately I needed to get to London. And so I studied in London. And then during this time, that was like the hustle period. That was like, oh, I wanted to start businesses, you know, generate revenue from projects. And London was a great place for that. I almost failed university actually.
Okay.
So my dad, you know, Chinese parents weren't happy with
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
I like the business hustling mindset. It's not that common find it in artists. It's something that most of people I feel like I have that as well. And then talking to artists, it's not that common finding that mindset because usually they like, oh, I just want to do my art and whatever happens, happens. I'm like, no, you need to make stuff happen. Like you need to go out there and try to find people that can help you and then they can make stuff happen. Like it's not just, yeah. Why do you think do you have that kind of mindset? It's not, yeah, as I said, it's not that common. Why do you think you have that and you translate in art as
Mm.
well?
That's an interesting one. Like if we're talking about the topic of entrepreneurship,
Mm,
um, for sure, again, this is related to my upbringing, and I can only thank my mum in this case, because I remember when I got my first phone, and it served a purpose, and the purpose was, I was like 11 years old or something, and my mum was like, James, I bought a ticket for a entrepreneur event, a tech event in London
mm,
with some like big names, Alan Sugar, Richard Branson, these
mm.
entrepreneurs. Go, I bought you your phone, I bought you a ticket. When you arrive, send me a message that you're in. And so I go to the event, and it's like full of, you know, inspiring entrepreneurs. And for me, at an early age, it was more or less, you know, some people might look at rock stars, Kurt Cobain, David Bowie, these kind of people, and be like, oh my God, that rock star lifestyle is cool. For me, it was like the lifestyle of an entrepreneur was,
Yeah.
entrepreneurs were my rock stars kind of thing. So that's kind of like the story of how entrepreneurship is in who I am. When it comes to the
Mm,
art side of things, I also have an opinion, and it's agreed with what you said. Like, I think artists should have a business tool in their locker. And my definition, I'm still young and maturing, but I have a definition of business. And for me, it's this: business is a framework that allows you to do what you want to do in a sustainable way. So you take an artist, you could have the most talented artist in the world,
mm.
have a business framework, how you get revenues through the door, your costs, you know, your 3 to 5 year plan or so. You're not gonna have the money to be able to do what you do.
Yeah.
So for me, those worlds come together, and I'm still figuring it out for myself. But I agree with you basically. Yeah.
They have to come together because it's not about it is obviously about art and finding yourself in art and express your creativity, obviously. But they have to come together because basically you're freelance. Like you are making stuff, and then people or collectors, they need to buy it. So if you don't have that kind of mindset for you to push yourself and go in galleries and talk to people and openings and all that things that makes people know that you do art, it's you can make the best art in the world, but if it stays in your house, like nobody's gonna see it, and like if you don't, it stays there, it dies there. So you can be the best paintings in the world, but nobody knows about it. So you need to find that way, that a way to make, yeah, do business. It kind of takes away the magic of obviously artwork and making art, but it needs to be in the back of your mind that you need to think like that a little bit, especially like for young artists. I would suggest always to younger artists than us, think like that as soon you finish school, as soon you decide to be an artist, start thinking like an entrepreneur, a business. Have a business mindset. Find a way. We have so many tools right now, like social medias, websites, anything like that can help you push your art. Um, Most of my sales are low through Instagram. Like literally, like people see what I do and they might commissions or they might buy something they see. It's like, but if I didn't put my stuff in on Instagram, I was like that kind of artist, like shy and
Mm.
nobody will see it, and I could not sell my artworks, and yeah, that could suck. So yeah, we completely agree on that sense.
I
Um,
think that's an interesting topic that you mentioned though, like the use of social media.
hmm,
But before kind of talking about that topic, it's more like, let's say we agree that artists need to have a business mindset as well. There's many ways to achieve your end goal. For example, for me, I made an active decision to go one direction. I think there are two mainstream ones. One would be uh, more of a traditional conservative one where you go to the good art school, you then get picked up by a good gallery. The gallery then does your business stuff for you, and then you're in,
yeah,
auction houses. There's another way, and I would call it, in the most positive way possible, commercial. Again, so my business strategy would be like, my goal is to have my artworks on the walls of people's homes. There's a
hmm,
reason why. Um, how do I achieve that? Well, I think the most effective approach is to go B2B, business to business, selling to businesses. And what does that mean is I work with a lot of interior designers, architects, and curators because they have access to the end client, the
hmm,
walls, the people who own
yeah,
their. So that's kind of like my approach. But again, many different ones, social media being another one.
hmm.
Uh, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Even for this whole like podcast that I'm doing, it all started when through the pandemic. I always wanted to start one. It's been years they have been listening to podcasts, any kind of podcast, love podcast.
Mm,
So I was kind of wanted to start something like that, but then the pandemic hits, and I was missing the community mindset, the talking to about art with people, because obviously we were locked and we couldn't do anything. So I was missing the literally talking about art. Um, and that's when I completely like decide to do this. But it's a fun project. One day maybe will bring some money as well. But yeah, if I was that kind of person that, oh no, maybe let's not try this, I would not had all this amazing conversation that I did have with this artist, and then I could meet people like you, that that can bring some a little extra into my way of thinking and my way of doing art. And so yeah, you need to push yourself to do that kind of things. It's so important right now, especially because if you want to have that kind of like independent artist mindset, and you don't want to rely only on like galleries and people that say yes to you, you have to have other ways to, more difficult maybe, but yeah, other ways to push your art. Anyway, let's jump into your practice. So I saw your paintings, beautiful paintings. Um, what does so how do you approach your paintings? how do you literally start the white blank horrifying canvas that we all have to face at the beginning? How do you start a painting?
I would take a step back and kind of see. I would divide it before. Let's say I have a blank canvas. I maybe have some questions in my head. So the questions would be, what am I drawing or painting? How am I going to do it? And kind of on top of that sits a concept. So for me, the what has always, or for a long time, been about the human form. And the way I see it, I can also thank my teachers back in the day who introduced me to some ideas. But for me, the human body is the most exciting thing to paint, to draw, depict. And I'm not the only one who thinks like this. This is a centuries long, thousands of years type art niche. So I draw the human form, and for me, every body is different, like physically, and every pose is different. So for me, I always say the body is an unlimited reservoir of expression. I will never get bored. So that's the what. That's why I draw. Recently, I've been fascinated by dancers, whether that's ballet, and you can get some beautiful poses off that, or Brazilian funk. There's the body is a magical tool, and that's the what. How? Maybe because you know a bit more about like my daily life. I want my art to be as possible, like different from my daily life. And let's say I work, I have detail in my daily life. I need to do this at this time. I need to do emails like this. When I do art, it's the opposite. I want it to be quick. I want it to be loose. I want it to be almost out of my control. So my ink drawings, I let sometimes the water decide what it looks like, and have less control. I have some ideas, but let's see what happens on the paper or the canvas. I mean, I can also talk conceptually. Maybe this meta layer on top. And there's one thing that I really enjoy doing, and this is trying to capture love stories. This gives me the why. So I have the what, the how, but the why I'm even touching the canvas might be, let's just give you an example of my most recent painting that I just did. I have a commission from a Russian customer based in Milan. He wants to give a gift to his sister. I then have a very simple brief. He doesn't have too many constraints other than budget, size. I then go around, and just so happens that I have a Russian friend who's a dancer. And so that's my what. The concept behind this is, and love can be in many different ways, between romance or just people, humans to humans. And without going too deep into politics, I would just say this, as a proud Chinese person, I empathize a lot with Russian people. And by the way, let's have people from politics here, because often, because of Russia and China, we're on the other side of the global story, in the sense you have the West and the non-West. On average, people in the West will have a negative opinion of people of China and Russia because of the politics. So then for me, it's like, let's just share love of another human. And so a very talented dancer who happens to be from Russia, and a very smart, successful businessman who also happens to be from Russia. I'm just humans, and that's it. So
like that.
Into the concept.
I like that. I like the contrast that you have between your like everyday life and which is more like schedule, like really rigid maybe, and then you try to let it loose on the canvas. And do you think it kind of helps, like even like your mental health, helps you like mentally to just relax and just let it go? And I can see that.
Mental health, another topic, and we can record
I know that.
podcast on this one.
Is literally reason why I do my art.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Likewise, in some form. And um, long story short, there's many types of way to express ourselves.
Mm.
Art is the one that maybe sings to us the most, but I have found no other activity that makes me feel more present. So when I'm drawing a figure, for example, mate, I'm so very basic mind. I'm looking at shape, where the light hits, the
Yeah.
curve of certain bodies. Like that's the only thing in my head. I'm not thinking about like what do I have to do for work the next day or other stresses. For me, that's enough, you know.
Yeah. 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 It's what does so except when you go to project when somebody's asking for a commission, what does it inspire you to paint? Like it's it's more like you focus your painting like on a composition, so how we will look like, how you pose, the pose that the body is going to take on the canvas.
Mhm.
What does it influence you to, yeah, to get an understanding of what you want to do if
You,
it's not obviously a commission and yeah,
you
people
you
asking.
mean oh, the topic of influence and inspiration. I could also talk about my life leading to the moment of that canvas or the actual canvas itself. I guess
Mm.
the life story is a bit too long, so I will just focus on the
Yeah.
canvas itself. Um, I enjoyed two things. I enjoyed my own free flow, but I also enjoyed collaboration, and collaboration can come in the form of commission. So I told you one story about the kind of the Russian customer, but maybe I'll give you another story that will highlight and give you some more insight into how what influences me. I talked about love, right? Um, and actually, the best or my favorite painting that I've done in the past years is a commission for a Brazilian customer. And it goes like this. This commission I did like 4 years ago or 3 years ago during COVID. And the brief was quite simple. The customer wanted to give a gift to his girlfriend for Dia de Namoradas, Valentine's Day in Brazil.
Mm.
Um, okay, so I say this, and now I'm asking many questions. I'm like, what is she like? Describe her in 3 words. What are her favorite colors? Tell me a moment where you knew that you loved her. And so he tells me a story. He goes, sometimes, on Friday, Saturday night before we go out for dinner or to a party, I come out the shower and my girlfriend is doing her makeup in front of the mirror. Very simple, quiet moment. And he's
Mm.
telling me like, James, that's the one. Um, now I have like input in my head and the output comes naturally. Now I have some input. If I had no input and I just had a brief, fuck it, I don't know
Mm.
where to start. But now I have a storyline and an image in my head. I can go. The best thing about this commission was I did it 3 years ago for this couple, let's call it. They got married in February and I went to their wedding.
Oh,
So the
that's
reason, yeah, in Brazil. So the reason why it's my favorite painting is I I was so in this painting, the story of it.
mm.
Circle is part of a love story, and somehow, in a tiny way, I managed to be part of their story. And for me,
Yeah, that's
that's
beautiful. That's so beautiful. It's I like we're really similar on this aspect. Like I correct me if I understood wrong. You need to find like a connection to the whole subject. It's for me when, for example, I'm working on this big series that I'm doing. It's about immigration, and I need to, most of the time, I kind of know the person because usually, as an immigrant, you meet most of the time first immigrants
mm,
as your
mm,
friends. Like that became your that's your circle. Um, but even then, I cannot just do a portrait of the immigrants just like that. I I kind of, and it's one of the like segments in the podcast as well. Like I interview immigrants and that I ask them about their stories and I ask them about their experience and what they went through and how they feel about being an immigrant in another country, and that helps me. That I feel like the interview connects me, and it makes the paintings so much more interesting and so much more more intricate, because I try to tell a story with this painting. So there is that connection there, like, and it's an emotional connection. It brings the painting to another level. If it was just, photos, just copying the paintings, copying the photos with the paintings, it would be completely different. And that connection that you have with the subject, and it brings the paintings to another level, and it helps me, and it looks like it helps you to express what you want to do with the painting.
Just on the, because number one, I would love to see your work at some point. So let's schedule a time to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
But also the topic of immigration and art. There's one artwork that comes to mind. I don't know if you know, I'll send it to you later. There's a French street artist called JR.
No.
And basically a few years ago in Europe, we had, at least the media called it, a refugee crisis. And he wanted to kind of depict this or react to it in his art. And so in Paris, he did graffitis of the people of the stories. However, obviously Paris being Paris, has many rules on this and banned him to do it or whatever. He kind of, I love the creativity of this. So on the bank of the Seine, there's like some, there's a promenade and you can walk, and there's some walls by it. What he did is he hacked the system, and instead of using spray paint to do his art, he actually used glue, invisible glue, to make his art. And over time, the dust from the area would cling to the glue, and then the refugees in his, how he portrayed them like this. I love that. But thanks, you reminded me of this, basically.
Yeah. It's yeah. Oh, that I need to see that sounds pretty
Let's
cool.
go to Paris. Fuck it. I don't know if you saw
Yeah,
that.
let's go to Paris and see it. No picture. I like that. Yeah, it's it just is. It just makes the painting more complex for me. It's obviously, as I said, I'm not just portraying a person. I'm wanna tell stories. That's what I try to do in my paintings, especially in this project. And the way I'm doing it right now, it's layers, and like really thin layers of like oil painting, one on top of each other, kind of like building up the portrait, but at the same time building up the persona, like the what that person is, and all this adventure that you went through being an immigrant. So
Can you just, I'm very curious, just really, can you share a story of maybe one of your people that you're painting? I'm just curious about.
So there's a few even on the podcast if you want to go listen. There are some episodes a little bit back. So I interviewed recently a Turkish guy, which I became like really friends to. Is in Berlin as well, and really interesting story. The whole how he needed to like, it was really difficult for him to get like a visa to stay in Europe. So he really went through like kind of like difficult times because of that. So he expressed his opinion about that, and but he my point is with this project is kind of like shining a different light on immigration, because those people are happy. Even if I'm happy, even if I went through difficult times maybe, but I'm happy that I'm doing this life. It's not the easiest life that we decide to do, but it's it's the life that we choose and we want to do. So if we went outside our country, it's because we want to try to find a better life for ourselves. It could be from you escaping the war to I I just want to explore the world. Like, it doesn't have to be that. I'm not looking for that immigration story, if it makes sense. Like, I'm trying to open the eyes to everybody about what immigration is and what it can be. And I interviewed this Romanian girl that she had to leave Romania from she was 12, and she had to live she was living by herself, and then she had to, because the mom traveled to Italy, so she wasn't not with the mom for like years, and then at 12 she had to go to Italy and to meet the mom and to live with the mom, and then so she was telling me about how difficult and how it was interesting, the whole, you're 12, you don't know the language, you have no idea who these people are, and then you have to adapt to all these kids that you have to meet at school, and the whole story. So yeah, it's every story is super interesting. One I was interviewing this French girl, and she was like, I didn't think my story could be interesting because I just decided to leave my country because I wanted to go somewhere else to study. But then talking to her, we just explore and reflect on her story, and she was happy to do that because she was like, I didn't really think about my story until now like this, and it's really nice to think about what I did and all my disadventures. So it's a complicated subject as well for people to open up a little bit, because it's really intimate, and so those are quite a few stories about about these people that I interviewed. This project started project started when I was in England, because I lived in Bristol for a long time, and in 2018-19 I started, and so I was exploring immigrants in England. Now, because I'm in Berlin, I'm doing that in Berlin. So it's been going on for a while.
Number one, okay, again, many topics to talk about because Bristol is one of the most creative parts of England. Like, I know you know better than I. Yeah. I'm sure we have more stories to exchange, but
yeah, for sure, that's amazing. So I don't want to keep you for too long. What's your Instagram, if you want to plug anything, your website, if you have a website, how can people reach you and see your beautiful paintings?
Okay, I guess plug time, very simple. Instagram, artist J Song. J stands for James, right? And then everything goes from there. I think, I'll just keep it there.
Amazing.
Feel free to message me anything. Like, just say hi, and I will maybe make artwork out of that hi,
Yeah, contact James. Go and see beautiful artworks. I will put all the links in the description so people can go and easily see your profile. Thank you very much, James, to be part of the podcast. It was a great talk, and then let's meet one day.
Grazie mille. Quick question.
Yeah.
Where in Italy are you from?
South of Italy, so Puglia.
Okay, the reason why I ask is I'm going to Naples next week.
Okay.
And the reason is I love football.
I see.
Last weekend of Serie A, which, it's the first time they won since Maradona, and so street parties.
Yeah. It's gonna be crazy. Naples is special. I love Naples. I've been there for like 5-6 times. I love Naples. I one of my favorite cities. But get ready. It's gonna be a crazy mental time.
You know how it goes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, James. Have a great day.